You're missing something. Oh.
Yeah. You doesn't. Yeah.
What was it going to be here tonight? So, yeah. So I think we are all present. Brian said he's going to be a couple months away. But yeah, what do you know? Maybe. I'll wait for you to your report. Yes, then we must move to the elements that it's a big job. She did very like we expected. Yeah, and so check it out. We did at this point. Yeah. Yeah, what's got on cracks is so low. Yeah. We done it together. Yeah. Oh, we had to talk. Oh, we don't really hold the hard. It's I'm sure. It's not everything. Yeah. Okay. Say it again. Really? Oh, well, here's something. I knew you guys were walking down and I go, man, just be happy to be there. Most they were. Well, most never come to house. Yeah. Still personally. When I get back in case you to talk to you about there's a new state law about a department and longevity of service. And that thing there's no match with the state. So Toby's looking wrong with these things. The rest of the fire is if I did we got implemented. I think we have those were more likely. It's not like in time. Yeah, it's like there was that fight and I need to call big track. We usually really hang on service. Yeah, everyone's really you can talk more about it. Every time quality order and it was what religious to supply the United States to defender of the first things nation indivisible with liberty and justice for all. We take roll call, please.
Brian Rogerson,
Here.
Kevin Keeney,
Here.
Alan Schneider,
Here.
Tom Sexton,
Here.
Kevin Mills.
Here.
Couple notes here. Chad Ellis with Washington County Sheriff's Department will not be here tonight. And then we won't have a representative from People's Service. So those would be the two things to note. So we won't have anyone do the report for the sheriff's department, but
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Travis is here. We did put on under the item C, Husky Ball Association doing a fundraiser on October 4th at Hall Park. With this as a request for an alcohol permit. So this would also mean that alcohol would be sold on city property at the park. So that would be a part of consideration of the approval of the permit would be on public property. So I guess I don't have any concerns with it. However, we do have ongoing construction in there. They've been made aware of that. So at this point, I know Travis has been working with them on, Travis Reagan has been working with them on a alcohol permit, but yeah, any questions on that event?
So I talked to Travis about it and it's okay with everything. Okay, now motion to approve. Sorry. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? No wishing to speak in our public forum this evening? No. Next on the agenda, we do have Washington County Sheriff's Department report.
I did have one note on this. So the city of Kelowna has moved their council meetings to a 6 p.m. time slot, similar to ours. So Chad had, because he goes from Wellman to Kelowna to Riverside on his, I believe that's how he was doing it before. Maybe it was the opposite direction, but he had requested see if we could do anything to, I guess, fit with his schedule. I thought about doing, if we had it, it's kind of a rolling agenda item where we don't quite know exactly where Chad's gonna be at in the meeting because we can't say a specific time, but if we can have it on there, it can kind of get bumped down until he gets here and be a part of it. Yeah. That was the only thing to report. Unless, I mean, more often than not, unless there's some kind of active event, it's usually more kind of a general sit here, give you these questions, and if he's here on a quarterly, I don't know if maybe looking at it, if it was a bi-monthly or a quarterly basis where he could make sure he got around to all the communities but I think just letting him know our intention is just to work with him however we can, so.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
With the sheriff's. City.
Mhm. Yeah. Yep. Be here. Yeah. Yeah. I think if we have it just as a agenda item and it gets kicked down, we can always come back to it until, so that's fine. All right.
Just two things on here. Just a quick update of where we're at with the engine replacement. Myself, Cole and Alan had a meeting just to kind of discuss the bid process. I know where we're at, what we need to do, how we can keep that moving forward. Found out that the city attorney would be just do a competitive quote process.
Got it figured out.
That cleaned up a lot of the paperwork stuff, so the bids have already gone out. We sent it for comparative bidders. There were potentially unions that are big enough for those that have stock trains. We've heard from one asking questions, they should have a bid back, another that said they have nothing available. Those are the other two. I'll reach out to those two again. Bids are due back September 2nd, and then we council meeting September 8th to award that to our bids.
Awesome.
So should be moving forward with that. Yeah, that's where we're at there. The other thing on here was just the approval for purchase of the skid unit. We got 3 bids there. You see your packet. 2 of them were pretty close, and the other one was way more. I'm not quite sure what makes that one so special, but apparatus committee went around and looked at some skid units that departments had in the area, such as Solon, Ainsworth, Washington, and Mountain Road. We recommend going with the Q-TAC one, that's $890. It's in between the middle one of the 3 bids. That one fits in the box of the reader and with the tailgate closed. So the other ones, they hang out about 10 to 12 inches with the tailgate down, so it kind of creates it a little back end heavy. This one fits really nice in there, and if we need that rescue portion for like a patient thing, we can drop the tailgate, the rescue portion flips out onto it. So it's really nice unit. Solon has one. They've been very happy with it. The other ones, one of the other ones I talked to the department, they've had to rebuild their pump on that one. Other one twice, excuse me, a brand pump. The one we're recommending getting the Q-TAC one. It's a similar pump you get on the brush trucks. We've had good success with that style of pump. So we did like approval to get the Q-TAC order, and we can take the guys said roughly 7 to 8 weeks to get.
Chad, I think you mentioned already, and that's our department would be able to install all of this.
Yeah, it'll just be shipped here, so I'd probably just make arrangements here with Logan or maybe Mike over at the feed mill. Have the forklift at the station and just come on the plug. And then we just, yeah, it comes right ready to go. We just set it in the box. It's got anchor points, we'll anchor down. It's all plumbed, ready to go.
Yeah.
Nothing needs to be there.
Are you looking for militant municipal?
Yeah, that's outside of my approval range, outside of Alan's approval range, so we need city council to approve this.
I make a motion to approve the purchase of that unit. That once we switch up. I'm second it. Looks like you did a nice job.
Any discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Cool, can you make sure that it's added to make sure?
Yep. Yep.
Do I get anything for me?
Anything else?
That should be it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chad.
People serve .net. You want to talk about the resolution?
Yes, I can skip the resolution here. So this resolution is for a professional services agreement with Veenstra and Kim, essentially to assist with the development of a request for proposal for sewer repairs, and then also help with the bid procurement process. So this would be, there's 3 scopes to our repair. So when every October, November, when we do our sewer jetting, there's a maintenance report that gets done. They televise the sewers, they find areas that need to be repaired, and we have a list from the last couple of years on things that are so property owner responsibility, that we would need to get pricing for and then coordinate with owners on either a payment plan. They had some ideas of how we could go about that, or getting them to opt into that. And then there's also sewer lining that would need to be done. And then there's some point repair, there's areas that have some cracks and stuff like that that need to be fixed. But given the multiple scopes of work on this and kind of the complexity of the work itself, it would be nice to have I'll say it's going to be essential that we have some help to be able to get quality work done on this. This has a not to exceed amount of $15,000 for the development of all the materials and awarding the contract. So there's would still be cost to of project management after the project if we needed those services for this, but 15,000 would cover everything from award of the contract before. So does that make sense?
This includes the repairs of when we have a camera.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is so it there's a repair list that CIT sewer who we contract with to jet and visualize our sewer. There's a list of repairs that could be made. I think there's going to be some discussion on which of those repairs are high priority, like they're needed right now, because you could foreseeably repair everything on that list, but you'd also spend a heck of a lot of money doing it. So I think it's important that we prioritize where we allocate those resources, and some of those things may not be high priority items right now, but that's what I think getting V&K involved in to help us make those decisions would be helpful.
They have lists of where the biggest problem areas are at in town.
Yeah, so Kevin, our sewer system is each manhole cover has a number, the system, and then it's like basically they'll have a section of sewer main, and there's a certain points on that have certain like foot, like say it's like the 25 foot into this line, it's measured in linear feet through it there, so you have specific locations of where all these repairs are needed. So when they camera all of that, they indicate where those things are at. So we have a list of what repairs are needed where.
Is it sort of coming in, do they say it's critical or are they all just stuff that we deal with?
Yeah, we have photos and videos of all of it too for V&K to help with, but we're gonna primarily go off of the at least worksheet that we've gotten from CIT to start off with. So more information we'll have, if we approve it, there'll be more information from V&K. So
I make the motion to approve resolution 20.5-6. V&K to basically be the general, I'm the same to secretary's board. The public attention.
Discussion. I would imagine they will take into consideration a lot of these places that may need repaired. Either repaired before, how often they can repair them, so.
what do you mean by that?
Well, I think we have done work before with lining some of these issues. And if they're just reoccurring scraps that need realignment, and I hope that's on the top of their critical list there.
The other piece,
We just ain't cure this problem, we need to
Yeah.
get it and rebuild.
That's good.
they did point out that there is one area that would need, I think need to be dug up to do repair. There's a lot of it seem to be a lot more minor stuff that can be addressed through lining. There was another consideration part of this project would be, are there areas of where these repairs are needed that we would potentially address in, say, future street projects where we would replace the sewer as part of that? If that's the case, some of those things, if it's done, say, the next 5 years or so, may not be a high priority on this repair. But I think we can make that determination once we start working on V&K starts working on the list. But
Additional discussion. All right, the roll call vote for that, Rogerson.
Aye.
Aye. Mills. Anything. Legal service. Or anything else?
followed up with, I think after our last meeting, we talked about spraying and stuff, and spraying and then cutting weeds back, mowing on well 8 trail. So they've been instructed of that and have been doing more of that lately. help from Brian with the mower, and then cut back some of that on well 8, the trail system, I guess trail back there. And then other than that, I'm sure there's probably something, but I can't think of anything major right now that be water sewer related.
Alright, we'll continue on then to the city engineer.
Good evening.
Um,
Right, sorry, with the wellness center. I don't know, Paul, do you want to lead this or just talk about the resolution in terms of the funding or the board on that?
Um, I guess we could lead with that resolution. That's fine. At this point, I guess. Yeah, I mean, that's, if you would rather do updates first and then the resolution, I don't care.
Yeah, definitely. So just, yeah, we're continuing the wellness center to, help support, both in the, again, grant funding, this update there is we've had some coordination with, Team House and Idols, looking at some potential, funding to help with stormwater, the stormwater funding quality on site there. With the water quality initiative grant money that they have available, she feels this would be a really good site and for that being that it's a new community. For them, they have not really done much with Riverside in the past, so we initiated that. And Danielle's had numerous conversations with Cole and other grant funding there within to the wellness. Continue to work on the marketing for the bond referendum here in November. As OPM and providing some of those documents, you can see the sign is up now on site as well. And then some continued efforts on the build on commercial and construction incentives with the utility companies and rebates there. So really it's a lot of coordination, preparation for the bond right now, website, answering questions and things like that from the public, helping Cole on that side of things as well.
Brian, I did want to get into the Wilden incentives here in a moment.
Sure.
I did want to say that, so Danielle and I are working on the Riverboat Foundation grant application. The plan is to have the council meeting on, I think is that the 8th. Yeah, so September 8th. So the application is due September 15th, and the plan would be that we'd have a draft done for the meeting on the 8th. So if there were any other changes that need to be made, we can still have time for city council to have input on the 8th and approve it. And then we can, if we need to make any changes, we can make those and then get it submitted by the 15th there. So, and then Wilden incentives, that's something I was hoping you'd be able to give some input on. I remember when Joe and I went through the I guess meeting with the Wilden team. They, I guess, showed us 3 different bundles of incentives. And the letter of acceptance for the incentives that we got, we only got the first bundle rather than 2 and 3. And I guess how those were formed, I guess I don't know if I can speak to the technical aspects of it, why I was on the call, but like to be able to speak on why those things were chosen or if they're vary from the original design. Essentially what I'm trying to get to, Brian, is like, of these bundles, how much of this would result in potential like new cost or are designed in ways that are go beyond what the preliminary plans were.
Yeah, I don't know if I can speak in detail of that. I can certainly get some answers on that from Joe and Kevin in the group, but normally I would say typically on things like that, you put together those different bundle packages as you said, and then you assess those versus what the project is at hand and kind of weigh out what those advantages are for some of that funding and assistance. And generally speaking, it's not adding any additional costs. Normally what they'll do is focus in then on a bundle that makes sense with what has already been designed. In this case, it's just narrative and schematic design right now. But then that they get into the details of that specific bundle because it makes sense with what the the scope is of the project or what the intent is based on wellness center. So, I can try to get some more information
Yeah.
on too specific to that, but
That would be helpful, because like they sent, Wilden, Mid-American and Alliant all sent documents to like accept the incentives, but I wasn't quite sure what the, is accepting that, like binding us to, like
Yeah.
needing to implement all of these things, or if we don't get all of it done, do it to get, it is itemized, how does that work? That was trying to get.
find very great time for that for the next meeting, but generally speaking, these are all incentives that are public. I think there are no any additional costs to it, so it goes in line with what is already thought of that's going to be relevant to the design of the specific project, and then it's just that incentive. So this would be any different than that. But yeah, I can send you in a little more detail what that breakdown is for that bundle and what. Yeah.
Other than that, we do have the resolution of necessity that calls for an election on proposal to enter into a general obligation loan agreement and borrow money thereunder in principal amount not to exceed 8 million. So John Danos from Dorsey and Whitney had asked for some information from Brian and I on the project. You will see in, let's see, I think page 45 of the packet. There is some cost estimates that are listed on, I think, page 46 here, that shows 11.5 million. And that is based upon, so Brian, your assumption that on the high end of pricing, 10.5 million for construction, and then another 1 million for, I guess, finishing, furnishing and equipment. And so that gets us to 11.5 million, the top end. However, that is kind of variable, because if we say end up renting or leasing equipment, we may not have a large front end cost that would be included in this. It's also dependent on where we end up on bids. Brian, is that 10.5 million, is that including engineering in that, or is that just
No, that was construction.
just construction? Okay. What do you, I don't know if you have it on hand, but like anticipate?
I don't, as a provided that, that's I don't.
Okay.
Follow
Okay.
up. But yes, correct, that was, 10 million was based on, construction estimated on the party, estimator, as well as a couple of general contractors with similar projects that they've been in the last year. Public wellness. Based on per square foot, what we have now. Like you said, then you got your furnishings, fixtures, and equipment that adds to that. Hard to completely define that at this point, but generally speaking, it kind of say it covers you there. So that's what we got that money out there for that. Often need less than that, just based on what type of finishing you're doing there. Like you said, if you're leasing equipment and things like that.
With language and like for a bond like this, it's important that we, it's better to aim high and not spend as much than it is to sell what the actual project cost is going to be. And yeah, I think at 11.5 million, I think we addressed that to where I think we are going to be able to. I was not saying that something that happens economically that would drive prices way up, but 11.5 million should get us to where we need to be with first buffer. The ballot language here would include, shall the city of Riverside in Washington County, state of Iowa, enter into one or more loan agreements and issue general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $8 million for the purpose of paying the cost to that extent of constructing, furnishing, and equipping a municipal community center / fitness facility, including associated grounds, infrastructure, and parking improvements. So that's the ballot question. They are saying that based off of the $8 million amount, they're saying it is estimated that an annual increase in property taxes on a residential property with an annual valuation of $100,000 resulting from entering into the proposed loan agreement and issuing the bonds will be $288.60. However, the city council may determine in any fiscal year while the debt is outstanding to alternatively budget from any other available revenues for the payment of principal, interest, and premium, if any, pursuant to the terms of the bonds. So that's essentially saying if we did not pay for, we didn't use any other revenue sources to cover this at $8 million, that $288.50 is the anticipated tax impact. Not to, I guess, include any kind of payment from other revenue sources, which we've talked about utilizing some special revenues to be able to pay this to not put it on property taxes. But this is also something that would be a decision of future city councils on how they go about approving budgets in the future. So we can't say necessarily that property taxes will never be used to pay for it because we can't necessarily say that without knowing. But the intent right now is we would be using special revenues to pay for it. So, anyways. I guess next steps after, if this were to be approved, we would have it signed here, and then there is a public notice that we publish in the newspaper before the election, and then there's some stuff we'd have to have, I think, the auditor sign, and then it's just due by September 19th to the auditor to get on the ballot. So I have a physical copy here tonight, if it's approved to be signed, so we can get that rolling. But once we have this figure that's going to help OPN actually get those, I guess, financial projections together for their mailings. We talked about getting one of those out in September yet, and then having another go out before the election in October. So, questions from the city council on this?
Somewhere in here, I sit over here, I'm pretty quiet on a lot of stuff, but looking, watching, thinking and everything, one, I'm not comfortable with 8 million. I think Riverside's pushing their thing on what it was, the Spear financial conversation on the phone. Had so many ifs, ands, and buts about what may happen with doing a bond. And I sit and watch our estimated project. Kind of maybe we were 8 million, then 10 million, now we're 11.5 million. And I think he just says that does not include engineering costs from it.
Correct.
So that's on top of that. That's probably going to be fairly monumental. The costs that come with doing this project and the ifs that we don't have answers for makes me really uneasy about how we're going to pull this off for Riverside. I don't know how much work goes into it, but I gotta sit and start speaking up about where I feel I'm at. I'm only one.
Okay, but one thing to mention is like the decision on the table tonight is not necessarily approving the project going up. I mean, to get the point, we would have enough a substantial amount of cost going into it if we got to that point. But the decision on the table is, I guess, putting this on the ballot and letting voters have their say in the project, which I think this is just the interpretation of the project. That has been the goal, is to get it to where the public can have if or not. Does that make sense?
So all the information about all those cost prices and everything are going to be on information before we go vote. It's
So that's what this part of
hopefully everybody sees it, reads it to understand what is actually happening.
So there's like the mailed notice. Did you get one? I'm sure you actually live in Riverside, you would. In Highlands, last fall did their bond referendum, there was like a trifold mailer that went out that had potential like tax impacts and how it would be paid for. That sort of mailer would be OPM would develop and have it send out for this project as well. So the public is informed on how much debt are we taking on, how do we plan to pay for it.
So I can stop it.
Correct. Yep.
I'm sure there's some of the same situation on the ballot. We need to give people take time to read.
So that's what those, if you look on the italicized sections on this resolution, one mentions the purpose statement of the general obligation bond. That's midway page down page 45 of the packet. And then there's another one on the actual tax impact on page 46.
So what happened? Basically, I see this as we're asking the city of Riverside, the residents, if we can borrow $8 million. If the project doesn't go through, we're not borrowing $8 million. If we get funding from somewhere else, that number could change, but we're asking for permission to borrow up to $8 million for this project.
That'd be correct.
I would consider resolution 2025-57 would make a motion to approve that resolution. Noted that all proper information go out to the public, which I'm sure I would hope it would.
Kevin, does that make sense that this is just like the
Yeah.
asking voters to make it up to?
Somewhere on where we're welcome to Seth and I feel. I know this wasn't a decision about doing it. Getting the information out that hasn't been sent out yet, haven't got to read it, don't know what it is. That's sketchy for me. I just wanted to say that I will approve, or I'm in agreement with getting this information out to that being said.
But not at 100%.
There's a motion.
Any additional discussion? Well, on Kevin's thought over, we're approving this information is gonna come out, so it will be out, and I hope in great discussion with the residents before election day, so this thing doesn't pass, and I think to get a general idea that the town is not going to move forward with this, so we either drop it, move on, or we make a less grander scale of facility.
I think either way, we'll just have to reevaluate if it wouldn't pass, reevaluate depending on how close we were and listen to the public about what kind of objections there were. I mean, we can cross that bridge when we get to it.
When was this information going out?
What do you mean? Like the mailing? Depends on OPN getting it developed, but once they are able to send this over to them, I think they could start working on it. The plan was to be able to get a mailing out at some point in September or for our first one, and then another mailer out in October. I think the September one was going to be the larger of the two, and then I think October was going to be more of kind of like a postcard type of deal, just hitting the high points so people have those, I guess, before they would go to vote on November 4th, they would know the high level facts about the project and what the impacts would be. So the whole point is we're not here to tell people how to vote. We're here to give people information on the project and let them come to their own decisions upon it. So.
This would definitely be put in the paper, correct?
Correct. Yep.
We just need to keep this frequently out there leading up to the election. I want this, this information sent out too far in advance that kind of forgot it. Really enough to give us some thought.
100%. I agree with that.
Yeah, the only comment is nothing's really changed to the messaging or the sign of the private reading estimates. It's been the same. Once through different websites. But to the point of educating, totally understand.
Sure.
Anything now? I'll vote to approve the resolution. Start with you,
Yeah.
Tom. Yes. Kevin. Resolution is approved.
I think we are in new territory now. I don't think we've ever been this far with this project.
No, it's milestone here.
I appreciate all the work on this, Steve, Paul, and, you guys have done that.
What would you want action taken?
I don't think I think we can wait on that one.
Yeah.
It's no problem to bring that back, say if we have it on the 8th, if we have information on then, or
Yeah.
the meeting after that, it's.
Cherry Lane, we're getting wrapped up, TC, we've been out there, yeah. Really quick time, we turn around and move back and do that in the summer. Well, I mean, west to the truth, so. I think you can do this. Yeah, I don't think it was as great as the offset as people were concerned with, so. Yeah. You know, you get those storm sewer intakes done.
I was just gonna say, so they're supposed to be in Wednesday, as of right now, should be in Wednesday, tops and everything will be in with them and install, getting the storm sewer ranked up. Wednesday or Thursday, we got, I'll just let's walk through, find out, to go through the contractor and see. Everything looked far, and what is it, so that we get that list to them, and so they can get that taken care of as well. Yeah.
In schools first,
Monday.
Yeah, next week, yep.
yeah, be pretty well ramped up.
Yeah, that was the big push to get that storm sewer stuff right up here this week, so everything's, yes, I think we're ready for that.
I spoke with,
The grass is taking.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
It's a kidnap I've ever seen.
I know, like, yeah.
yeah, I spoke with the elementary principal about the kind of the configuration of the flow of it, and there's part of that is up to the school district of how they manage flow through the parking lot. But Jane was generally happy with the project, and they have limited staff, so I have to kind of figure out crossing guards, how that stuff will work. I think there's maybe some potential for them to reevaluate how they're utilizing those entrances, but I'll let the school, talk more about that. But the only request Jane had was to, she was wondering about a stop sign at Schneblin Street there before it goes into the school parking lot and before the Cherry Lane, that intersection there. And her thought on that was by slowing, I don't know, she really would like to see parents dropping kids off along Klepfer because they have a crossing guard over there or along this new street, but not so kids cut across the parking lot. I did tell her if they had a temporary stop sign when the rollout ones, they could try that for a few weeks and see if that helps with their traffic flow or anything like that in the morning before we try any kind of like permanent sign placement. But I did want to bring it up, Brian, in case you had any thoughts for or against it. The design did not include it. So typically if it's not including design, that was done for a reason. So I wanted to see if you had any thoughts on that, but.
Yeah, I mean, the original intent was for that to be that continuous through movement and or continuous left or movement there. The school being the main movement, you got a stop sign, going east. So that's another concern there.
And that's a one-way entrance into the school, so.
Yeah, I mean, if you put stop sign there, yes, my concern is gonna be just the queuing up.
Yeah, that's what I told her about, and I thought.
And drop off zones. Concern than just walking down the traffic.
I did ask her if they had considered establishing better signage for dedicated drop-off zones. So where they can point towards areas that the school identified as safe drop-off locations. So soon parents would be more likely to drop off in those areas. Because right now there isn't any signage. I think it's just kind of more of a drop off at the front door as close as you can. But yeah, anyways, it's an improvement. The overall, it's an improvement of what it was before. So I think that's a win. But
I would say one thing for awareness on the school to bring to us.
What are the schools thinking to do up there? I don't know, maybe come up with the city, but maybe observe some of this too during those times, like morning and evening pickups. Just to see, just to get them even from the city side.
that's why I proposed if we didn't kind of permanent placement of the stop sign, if they had like a temporary one they could wheel out there, and if that helped them or not, or if it created more congestion on Schneblin, then obviously that's not what we wanted as part of the design. But yeah, that's we can be flexible and try different solutions and without fully investing in it. But I guess for now, I like send her an email and ask her what their plans are. But I would just hope that they, given that it takes some habit building by parents, if they let some things, I guess, let it try to see what happens for a few weeks and what people's reactions are, and let them get kind of settled in. But
Yeah, feel free to get into that conversation.
That's funny.
I think it's- Sure.
at this point, I'll kind of let them deal with them on their end, and if I hear anything, they can bring me into it. But
I get it. Yeah, the street was really good. All come around and so I walked it and driven it. On the sidewalk, probably about halfway down, right in the middle of the sidewalk, there's a big chunk missing. That looks like a skid steer bucket, little corn, maybe came down, just look at it. Some of the other, when you stand in the street, you look at the north and south corners, Cherry Lane and Clever, the big PVC like clean out boards. They seem hot. For lawn mowing or for snow removal. They look like the biggest potential to get sheared off and most of them around town have got a metal cap around it with a lid. I know I got one in my yard that's sinking and now the lid's loose and I mean, what hate to see our first winter go and we shear off some PVC things. Otherwise, I think the project looks really good.
No, it's good. No, we'll look at that for sure.
Yeah, I think that chip is like halfway down the sidewalk, right in the middle of the sidewalk there. Pretty good size chunk, 3-inch chunk or so. Right in the crack. If we'll make sure it's not close. Are we putting speed bumps on Clifford? At each side of the intersection or not?
haven't we haven't the sign.
Yeah, part of the design was determined not to.
Clifford's about as bad as Ellis Street anymore. I mean, I'm up there quite a bit. Man, people drive that fast. I don't know what you do to slow people down, regardless on the intersection. They were doing it before.
Right.
But now we got another street coming into it. I don't know what goes to get people to slow down. Speed signs don't do. The stop sign that's on, we're gonna set it, Blackberry or whatever, they blow through that every day.
Yeah, the stop sign, but for now, we go at Sherry.
Yeah. I just said,
That'd be funny.
it might be something to think about, speed bump,
We'll see if I-
at least on going northbound up Cleffer toward the school. Everybody needs something that says to slow them down. They scoot you there. I do coming from the other way too, but I see a lot more headed north that's really.
Another opportunity is, so the Iowa DOT does have those like radar sign, like we have up by the school right now and on 22 coming to town. They have a grant program, which I believe they'll cover the cost of the full sign. We just have to accept responsibility and ownership for it. So I think that potentially those seem to be effective. I don't know if it's, I think when you have, signage of it's the school area, and then people are aware of their speed. I think they're, you
I
know,
know people
most
say
people
that
wouldn't. But
it's not a really deterrent for most folks and they make a game out of the speed sign. It's what I've been told. And, I don't know that we've added, complexity for the new street. And until people, and it's mostly the people from that neighborhood, they're the ones doing all this fast driving, so I don't know why, how you get it slowed down, but I guess only time will tell,
Yes.
you know.
Some thoughts and what you see out there, Sheriff?
Good, man.
so we do have a pay
If
application.
not, yeah, we got the application there for grant number two, for the amount of $180,484.05. This gets, you know, up to current status on the construction when this was, submitted and get both for track and rail, I think rail and part with the overall project originally, so. You know, major concerns there, still some, creatures that they can just fell back on that as well, so obviously still the money there and. We'll get the punch with everything, hanging up before anything final is there, but that's in front of you tonight.
Okay, motion to pass, president.
Yeah.
Pay application. Over computer, I'm sharing. $180,484.05. I'll second. Discussion. Roll call vote, none of Rogers, right, sets the five bills. Code that budgets. Realize. We're about this.
Yeah, so we looked at some signs that we can get printed. I fabricated through, I think, Represent Industries. I have designs put together for them. You need to order those and looking at those affixed to like the stop signs, looking at doing it on both ends of the street. So whenever you're stopped there, there's a small sign acknowledging that on both ends there. So additionally, we probably also could look at putting some of those small signs on maybe one in the school parking lot and one of the fixing it on one of those signs. But I think 3 of those would be probably sufficient through there. So yeah. You know,
Walk ones. Maybe that continue to move along here as we see last week, but last week they were putting the surface down. The walk court itself, the players there, the court, been working through some of the change orders, a couple small ones that you've already seen, and then what we talked about, then we got another one in front of you for the additional area where we removed other playground equipment, even though a lot of sand that needed to get topsoil in there on that side of the original grading with this early contract. We're still working on the remediation of the glass removal. Still happy with what I've seen on the prices are that we're working through that.
Brian, would that glass remediation, would that be change order 5 if we had?
It would be, yeah.
Okay, if we had that, okay.
So, yeah, but moving along, tracking along, answer questions first, I guess, on pickleball as a whole, and then get into the
So we are putting fencing up around.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep. Correct. Yeah, that was the fence and gates, a couple of other gate locations, full fence. Yes.
And it's 3 courts.
Yes. Oh, go ahead.
2, 3, and 4 are all because it's sandy.
No, so yeah, I was gonna get that. So, you got 3 the change orders in there. So we got one of them that we're gonna. So number 2 is based on that, the same additional playground equipment that was taken and remediation of that to get topsoil in there to get that properly seeded. So we get some grass growing in that area. That is change order number 2. change order number 3 is,
Sidewalk.
basically it's sidewalk, so it's kind of extending, relocating, extending a little bit the sidewalk that goes up to the shelter space. After we got that, in there graded out and realized that we extend a little further, else it was coming into, it was butting right into some benches that were in the shelter and didn't seem to make sense in terms of pedestrian connectivity. So there was a small change order there, and then there was a small one on the, this drainage house. We added some additional drain houses once we got in there on ready to pick up all for period where I'm trying to get that dewatered a little better if we were in some saturated situations there. Again, a small one that could extend that, permanent drain.
I think 3 is on them. The same sidewalk.
I would say if anything, that would be like, it was in the designs, we
Yeah.
would catch it.
Oh, I was gonna say, I'll be honest, if you're gonna put anybody, I'll put it on us.
Yeah.
Take care of that. But it was in the original plans, and original design. Once we got that up there and looked at it, it didn't make a whole lot of sense of once it got in there, where that was, like I said, where we're inviting into existing benches seating in the shelter itself, if the shelter remained that way. And so they were, okay, this, which I'm happy if that's a concern, if we can look at that. And yeah, I too, I wouldn't put on this contract, though they did build that to what the plan showed and what was said, read on the facts.
I think everybody had ample opportunity to build it, project, the sidewalk doesn't plan, right? That's.
Includes it.
Works
All of us.
for them.
And us.
Yeah.
We also reviewed the plan
Yeah.
and said, this is,
I find the $9,600 for the cost of 83 months per feet.
Yeah, we went back for them originally was higher, actually, to be honest with you. They requested a different price on that. And after we defined, exactly what they're going to give her, sorry, once it's almost.
That one due to all the digging out, yeah, that we were hauling in.
And get extra playground equipment removed. It was everything that was outside of the original project limits in terms of grading. And then once we got in there, also all the sand was installed once the playground equipment was removed and taken out of there.
On future projects like this down there, that part, I'm hoping that we all understand that this part sits right next to a river. There's gonna be sand.
Right.
So hopefully moving forward, we're ain't gonna have change orders like this.
Well, the biggest thing,
It's a long-term project.
yeah, the biggest thing was that this wasn't part of the original contract, that part of the.
Yeah, and not-
And the disturbance on that, unfortunately happened, but so nothing, I mean, yes. That it does include, seating and mulching.
I'd like to see doctors sharper, but that's all
I-
at least.
I mean, I don't, this feel like I said, I can't remember what the first price was on that. We came back, questioned it a couple other times. They did come back with a. One we're receiving one of the glass is crazy. So
I'd like to make a motion to table this until Walker sharpens some things. But
Well, the tax is all amount. What would be the most of quarantine gas? And they buried that when they put the sidewalk. Foundation in.
yeah, that,
And, you know, so they $60 river tile for charge $450. And they were going to put everything in their hand. So like I say, it's a small amount, but every penny counts.
yeah, I'd like to see this come back to us. With the breakers.
Brian, on these change orders,
Yeah.
like, do you guys, when you look at quantities, do you have any specific, like, I guess when you look at the quantity of work is, do you guys have any, like, base level rates you use for things to kind of, estimate, hey, this is where it likely should? And I'm not sure, like, what does the negotiation process look like with a contractor? I mean, does it go based off of, hey, this is the quantity of work, this is what rate we're charging? I think your rate's a little high, like, what is it
Yeah,
like?
it depends on what it is. So if it's an item in which we already, is already a bid on the contract, since that's pretty easy to. So that's the case, like on the tennis court drainage is just taking it by unit cost, unit price. So if that was already in the original contract, it would have been the additional $450. So those are pretty easy to say, okay, that pricing is fair, because that's what your original bid unit price is. And then, things that are sometimes are a little difficult, even like on our topsoil and seeding. Sometimes you have to factor in the different mobilization and whether it's in different subcountry, but overall, yeah, we have, average unit prices and unit costs that are associated with almost any work that comes up. And if not, you can look it up and we can find some via some databases there on what those are. So, yeah, it just really depends. Depends. So if it's like shelter, sidewalk, and the rate, like I said, those are just taken by unit prices and costs, pretty self-explanatory times the unit, and that's what it is. The topsoil one, again, we have some numbers there that are probably not one-to-one with what they use there on versus the original contract. So they're going to say probably because there's additional involved and that goes with it. And where they're getting topsoil from importing it.
Is this change order two reflective of the update to a more local source of topsoil?
Yes, yes, correct. Yeah, originally they were bringing this topsoil from like Cedar Rapids or somewhere. And so that was another reason why it's so high. This does reflect the change of the location where this is.
I guess, final question. Like, where do you see that there could be some movement from Bowker on these figures, or
I mean, change order between four, I'll say. So they are what they are. It's unit pricing the cost. They go less than what they're. We did try again on the change order two. Like I said, we've asked them 2 or 3 different times, and they have changed their number, respectively, but
We're taking it back to them and it's been a significant change or $500.
yeah, I mean, I don't see it being significant, but I can also, we talked about this, I've talked about this with Cole, even on the glass removal and fill, is we can and already have reached out in that case to other contractors, and we can look at something for this project closed out and consider it a restoration project. If we're seeing something significantly cheaper cost to do it, that's an option.
Brian, what are we gonna pay for you and your staff's time to?
Well, I just coordinate some calls
Okay.
with some locals.
I think it's worth postponing and doing the extra work and asking them whether they're gonna cause more trouble than what it's worth.
I'd say on shape order two, it's certainly, like I said, I'm already requiring with a few other contractors on that last one, so we can throw this right into that and see if there's some benefit there. 3 and 4,
Mhm.
on the other side, I just prove it. There's really any argument. But change order two, we can do some more searching on this.
Should also be noted that 3 and 4, I guess Alan and I did talk about, we did authorize it based off of the price amount.
Right.
And while it was kind of a urgent issue, we didn't have a council meeting there, so the work has been done on 3 and 4. It's, at this point, needs to be affirmed by city council.
Right.
But, so I'll say we did stray from what policy typically would be on those, but in the sense of trying to save time and money, that was the best decision to, at that price level, to approve it then, so.
Very minor and
Brian, based off of the, I guess, rates you're looking at for change order two in there, You said they weren't exactly equivalent to what you were thinking. How far off? Like, what is the actual margin to be gained? I mean, are we talking $500 or $2,500? Like, yeah, that's based off the size decision. That's
But, yeah. I know.
so. Alan, I don't know if this is where you're going. Well, since if this is something that if there is a level that city council was comfortable with, if Brian, you could coordinate that between Alan and Stephanie while I'm out about if, hey, if they got this price.
Could potentially count. I'm putting one of the ones. That's permission to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I would be thinking $1,000 worth, but. Yeah, but that. Would it would be 83.
Yeah, I'm looking, if we were just using the contract numbers for, now this is topsoil on site, so not import, just based on the quantity, you're looking at $5,100. That would be just topsoil on site. And then I'd have to add seeding to that, the fact that we're importing some topsoil. And another little,
Is that like theirs or is that his,
that they're importing, yeah.
what is topsoil?
No, it'd be importing like they're,
It'd be like they're.
yeah.
Yeah, I say on what I said, you know, if it's $5,000 and another 3,300 spread. I still think it's that much, but I will improve that. They got one skid loader down there, Brian.
Yeah, no,
I mean, what are you talking about?
yeah.
So. Take that back. We'll make it motion, excuse me. To approve the resolution and just including. Change orders 3 and 4.
I'll make a motion to go through. Just change orders 3 and 4. To, copper pinnacle. And the amount of whatever it is minus.
37.
There you go.
Any discussion? And we'll come voting on that. Mills, Sexton, King, and Rogerson.
Aye.
And I'll just add to that, I think that's fair. I looked in, so if I just took topsoil. Was directly per contract, unit costs for 66.50 roughly. So there's an additional 3,000 in there. Whether they're considering that for mobilization or what, no, but just to get it. Okay, we'll go back to them on that. And then you also have pay application number 2, does not have any of those chain orders on it. And is going back. Well, and so you have that for $73,394.98. Again, to kind of get up to speed and correct where they are at.
25-59. And application number 2. What's up now? That's 16. Yeah. Not a nice. No, not 60. Pay application number 2, Bopper Pinnacle Mechanical for work completed on.
Any discussion? No, that's for your vote. Anderson, Cooney, Stetson, and
I,
Thank you. CDBG downtown revitalization. This Wednesday, we'll have our recent meeting number 3. I will be at that. We're gonna get sure we're getting some photos and pictures, everything to go along with that our last meeting to give a good progress update and show what has been going on to date and what is, remaining to be happening still. We also have a meeting after that with, I think, Kruger with 11, he's first, to go through that. It's things with the masonry there, and with the mason contractor to talk about. So be down there Wednesday morning, to help them assist with that. Otherwise, project keeps moving along. They keeps coordinating on our end. Martin Gardner, let me see if the time on that is the design side. I don't know if anything else to add to that.
No, not right now.
Yeah, the timeline on the windows and doors.
They just selected finishings, I guess all the finishes about a month ago. And I guess I'm not sure if there was some of the windows and stuff that were selected as part of that, with the trim on them. So since they just selected this, I think it's maybe gonna take a little, I don't know how long it's gonna take for them to actually order the materials and get those in, but I still think we're.
I'm just saying, it's like, that's when people notice.
Yeah.
What's going on.
Yeah, I just wrote down, we'll get those pictures in progress for the next meeting. I'll also get an updated schedule.
Okay.
Brian, I did add one other item based off of our last council meeting about adding Hall Park playground equipment. So we did remove that equipment there, and council had some questions about what we're gonna do with that, and potentially we did the Hall Park master plan and looked at putting new equipment in there. Is that what we want to do? What do we want to do with the equipment we just removed? That's kind of what I wanted to bring this back, 'cause that was requested by city council after the last council meeting, so. I guess to open it up,
So,
yeah, I guess my thought was if it is, we're looking at equipment that's close to 20 years old, and to put it back in, we have the cost of labor for that. And if we were to put it under, say, like a softball surface, I think at that point, if you're investing that kind of money into a playground equipment, you're probably better off finding new equipment. But I think as a whole, I think maybe the first question is, do we want to reinstall playground equipment there? I do have $250,000 in the budget for this fiscal year yet for this project, for the replacement of this equipment, but that's still, I think, part of the conversation here. Does anyone have any input on it? Ryan, you said sell it.
so Hall Park, from some of the history, the lessons I was getting recently, was donated Hall Park to families. Something, are we violating anything or any kind of written something about how Hall Park stays intact? If I said that right.
Not that, I guess, that I'm aware of. I mean, you could say intact being the property.
Well, because I think we were kind of trying to gear the park toward more adult area with ball fields, basketball, pickleball, tennis, volleyball and everything, but seeing some are upset that kids' equipment isn't going to be in that park anymore. So whether you reinstall the old stuff or you go to new, I was just curious what we may want to do. Are we stepping on any toes for somebody to come back and be really upset.
Well, if you remember the Hall Park master plan that we did, I think that would have been last year
Yeah.
at some point, did include new playground equipment in the area we removed from. So part of this project was regrading that section of the park, removing that equipment, filling in the sidewalk there, and getting them to those big elements. So then we can build playground equipment in there afterwards. What I wanted to ask is if, because we plan on that, we don't necessarily have to stick with that, but I mean, it seems like there is a need for it. I have heard from community members that like to have the playground equipment there just because it is convenient when you have kids that playing baseball games and then you have that area there. But it also should be known that we do have a very nice, relatively new playground or railroad park not too far away. So, do we have the opportunity here to look at, is it a different kind of playground or different kind of amenity that would cater to those younger kids there? I don't know. We're actually not set on any decision, but I will say that the decision right now that would be helpful is what do we do with that current equipment? I've gotten a number of, I think at this point, 5 or 6 requests locally, interested people who are interested in the equipment. So I think if we were to do some kind of, competitive bid, there would be hopefully a market for that. But that's also considering we would get rid of it. But I think I maybe started off, which is I don't think with considering the age of the equipment that and the labor you'd have to go to reinstalling it, I don't think it's necessarily worthwhile to reinstall equipment that is this old. But I'm open to other ideas on that too. Just a observation.
When it being talked about expanding the basketball court to something bigger. Some changes to auditorium seating. And then if you're wanting to do playground equipment, we got enough ground space to make that all feasibly meshed together or not.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
It could be done.
yes. We have to take it in overall. On the
other side
east side
of the park.
But it's across.
yes.
Yeah, it's not.
That was the, yeah.
Well, I would not be opposed to selling the old equipment, but I'd really like to see something replaced there because you just need, when families are down there in baseball, t-ball, whatever age baseball's going on, softball, there's gonna be smaller family members that need to be entertained, so
I agree.
there's something there eventually. Well, my parents would think that the Waller tennis or volleyball and,
I don't remember, how much did we pull out? What did we pull out?
everything.
So these, there was merry-go-round,
Swing, playground, jungle gym type stuff,
spin around thing.
basketball thing.
Only thing. In my,
But it was, it was some of that stuff.
Yeah.
it's all,
I wasn't really working on it and
And you gotta remember when you reinstall this kind of full point, right? If you're putting a new softball surface for, so everything else we have equipment to do is getting up to speed with the safety.
So
maybe in the future, look into that similar to the one on the east side.
And you can,
Up the park.
and you can do a lot of things in a more confined
With that soft
space, with these equipment now. These newer equipment that have multiple things you can do within one. But that's something that we need to be decided.
I'm not in favor of softball. Softball surface. I think you got two of that already. And this will be basically.
Yeah.
I don't think it's I think it's worse than I to do that.
And that's it.
for equipment going back in.
So if that's the-
the way for what goes underneath it, I mean, we all fell on grass You have to know.
Well, you do have requirements where you put in there, so whether it's a rubberized mulch or you got a certain depth of certain type of mulch.
Yeah.
Or, you know, whatever, there's requirements when that time comes, and, you know, you have to work through. So like the main point right now is
If
get rid of the existing equipment.
if that's direction, that's been the direction that's helpful for tonight. And I think this is something that a project that we need to revisit, especially if we're looking at doing maybe a reinstalling the stuff, pinch in the spring or something like that. We would consider we already have it budgeted in this fiscal year. I don't know if 200,000 will cover it or not, or depend what we want to do, but the idea I think is we can have a better conversation about what that actually could look like. I think tonight just establishing intent is to replace that. We can get rid of the current stuff, and then we can start talking about future plans after we get this project completed, which should be here not too long. So
Agree. I think the old stuff, maybe it's a little too large for our master plan part down.
Well, we could start what we're gonna do.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Ready for frost after the spring.
Yeah.
Back in the spring.
Absolutely.
This should go back in for spring.
Yes. No, I think that'd be a good plan.
So where is, is it put like full steel
Shop.
frames and all
shop right now.
in the salt shop? I just don't want this disappearing from the design because dealing with this.
So it's also getting some direction was helpful to get listed.
Metal stuff for sure, so.
Yeah.
This is what I say, plastic stuff, I guess we'll discuss them later.
My last question on this equipment. Do we want to do a local sealed bid, considering local interest in it, or do we do like gov deals where there is no additional cost to us? However, it does open the amount of bidders to it, and also I think it creates a more competitive environment because it's a live auction rather than a sealed
I
bid.
think as long as you get bids. It'd be best if some of the local ones buy it, but let's make sure we have at least 3 people on it.
I think in the best financial interest of the city, I think listing it on like gov deals and getting live auction like that is gonna maximize the money we get and also still give us local opportunity to keep it in the area somewhere here. So that's fine. I have all the information ready and I can get that somewhere that get listed. So
I'm sorry, no.
we are.
All right, thank you.
Let me clarify real quick. So the plastic equipment, we are listing all of the equipment, correct? Or did I misinterpret someone? Okay, that's what my assumption was. We list everything that we took out. Yeah. We can itemize it out by piece. So like all the plastic stuff would be together and the swing set would be itself and that be separated out that. Or if there's a couple of small things we'd bundle together, but yeah.
But sir.
Okay.
What's that?
Potentially. I guess marketplace doesn't you do bid, but yeah. So I'm not opposed to the idea of putting the swing in the trail, but we have to figure out how to install that, but anyways, we'll see. Anything else for Brian? All right. You guys ready for me?
Yeah.
All right. Start off here. We do have four different ordinances. We can take these one at a time here. As I know, we've sent these out over the last couple of weeks. We actually reviewed a couple of them at last council meeting. Just to start off numerically by the chapters, chapter 52 would be adopting the International Property Maintenance Code version or 2021 edition. What this does, this is by our building inspector, Terry Gertz, recommendation and request. Essentially, this gives us a greater establishes standards for nuisances. What I guess what does property maintenance mean? In this case, like say how much of a building can be have chipping paint before it needs to be before it be a violation of our code and need to be repainted. Our current ordinance does not allow for or does not specify that level of detail, but it gives us some tools to be able to strengthen the case for nuisance to be able to get things done. So this would just be first part of it. One thing I wanted to bring your attention to in this is that city council would be acting as the Board of Appeals. So say if we sent a property maintenance abatement notice to property owner and they wanted to appeal it, this is something that would come to city council for review on that. Based, not every city does it that way, but based off of our size of our community, we don't really have another committee that this would really make sense fitting. And I think based off how our team operates, city council would be fitting to fulfill this role. But do you guys have any questions over this ordinance? I will say all of 4 of these are subject to where they could be the first reading be approved, and then you could make a subsequent motion to waive, I guess, the next 2 readings and have it be passed immediately. But
That's what I was gonna ask you, if this required 3 readings.
so all of them, yes, require 3 readings. However, they're let's see, they're with that subsequent motion, we're able to waive the requirements of Iowa Code Chapter 380, Section 3, and it places this measure ready for final passage and adoption immediately. So there would be, yeah, so you could be able to adopt this tonight with 2 different motions effectively, but if you like, I would be happy to read it. So if everyone, this one's only a couple pages, but if that would make everyone feel comfortable about what we're passing, I'd be happy to do that.
How else know what it is? Or we'll read ourselves and then.
Part of it. I'll be happy to read. So, section 1 purpose. The purpose of this ordinance is to establish a uniform upkeep and maintenance standard for structures and premises within the city of Riverside, Iowa, and establish the framework by which non-compliant properties will be addressed. Section 2, chapter added. Chapter 52, property maintenance is hereby added to the city code. No underlined strike-through text is included in this section, as the entirety of chapter 52, as shown below, constitutes newly added language. So, chapter 52, property maintenance. 52, section 52, section 1, codes adopted. Except as hereinafter added to, deleted, modified, or amended, there is hereby adopted as the property maintenance code of the city of Riverside that certain code known as the International Property Maintenance Code 2021 edition, as prepared and edited by the International Code Council, Inc., and provisions of said property maintenance code shall be controlling and maintaining minimum requirements and standards of structures and properties within the corporate limits of the city, and shall be known as the Riverside Property Maintenance Code. Fees. The Riverside Property Maintenance Code is hereby amended by deleting section 104.1 of the International Property Maintenance Code 2021 edition and replacing said section as the fees for activities and services performed in carrying out the responsibilities of this code shall be provided in the Riverside Property Maintenance Code table of fees adopted by resolution of the City Council. So this is something we need to address in that master fee schedule, which I have all of that stuff put together. And I think we would just at the September 15th meeting, we would just approve all of that together. So everything's incorporated there. Appeals. The Riverside Property Maintenance Code is hereby amended by deleting section 107 of the International Property Maintenance Code 2021 edition and replacing said section as follows. In order to hear and decide appeals of orders, decisions, and determinations made by the code official relative to the application and interpretation of Riverside Property Maintenance Code, there shall be and hereby created a board of appeals. The board shall render all decisions and findings in writing to the appellate, which duplicate copies to the code official. Applications for appeal. Any person directly affected by a decision of the code official or a notice or order issued under the code should have the right to appeal to the Board of Appeals, provided that a written application for appeal is filed within 20 days after the day of decision, notice or order was served. An application for appeal shall be based on a claim that is true intent is that the true intent of the code or the rules legally adopted thereunder have been interpreted incorrectly. The provisions of this code do not fully apply, or the requirements of the code are satisfied adequately by other means. The Board of Appeals shall have no authority to waive the requirements of this code. Board of Appeals. Riverside City Council shall serve as the Board of Appeals. Appeal fee. A nominal appeal fee for an appeal to the Property Maintenance Code Board of Appeals shall be in accordance with the Property Maintenance Code table of fees adopted by resolution of the City Council. Section 108 is deleted in entirety. 5204 violation penalties. Riverside Property Maintenance Code is hereby amended by deleting section 109.4 of the International Property Maintenance Code 2020 edition and replacing said section as follows. Violation penalties. Any person who violates a provision of code or fails to comply therewithin or with any of the requirements thereof shall be subject to penalties in accordance with Chapter 3 of the Riverside, Iowa Code of Ordinance. Violation penalties. Riverside Property Maintenance Code is hereby amended by deleting the following sections of the International Property Maintenance Code, placing said sections as follows. Section 302.4, weeds deleted in its entirety. All ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with the provisions of this ordinance are hereby repealed. Severability. If any section, provision, or part of this ordinance shall be adjudged invalid or unconstitutional, such adjunction shall not affect the validity of this ordinance as a whole or any section, provision, part thereof not adjudged invalid or unconstitutional. Effective date, this ordinance shall be effective after its passage and publication as required by law. Passed and approved this 18th day of August 2025. Everyone still awake?
We're here.
So the first motion would be a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance. In this case would be 2025-01.
Yeah, and I would recommend to the rest of the council, we approve, if that's what we choose on this board, the first reading tonight, and we can option the second and third to pass anything else.
Okay.
I don't feel comfortable passing it straight.
That's fair. Yep, that's fair.
If we're.
Yep. Actual approval.
Sure.
Just so that's cross reference. What's referred to. Yep. We can do that to maintain consistency. Yep.
Motion to approve the first reading
25-1.
Any discussion? We'll probably move it to that. Bills. Sexton. Rogerson.
Next one, so is amending chapter 55, animal protection control. And this was per the recommendations of city council last time, and that was to update the language from referring specifically to dog, but making it more general and referring to animal. So
Better start reading. I didn't know
Yeah.
so this one, since it's in this case, since it's an existing ordinance, I will just mention the things we've updated. I think that's gonna be a quicker way of doing this one. This has been our ordinance, at least since I've been here, but just quickly before we get into it, I do want to read the first two pieces here, as that's what the purpose of this ordinance change is. The purpose of this ordinance is to update the city's process for the handling of vicious dogs, illegal animals, and dangerous animals to streamline the process and remove the direct involvement of the Washington County Sheriff's Office. Section 5519 is repealed and replaced in its entirety as follows. Let's see here. So you'll see through here, you'll see a lot of strike throughs on dog being replaced with animal. Yep.
Last incident. Washington County did not handle this greatly. And we have some upset citizens. And they have every reason to be upset. So I agree 100% with this without reading the whole.
That
Originally, it was just specifically pointing out dogs, which,
Yep.
need to be changed. This, you can have feral cats and what.
it also updated, so instead of the sheriff being the one that initiates the proceedings of finding whether an animal is vicious or dangerous, it would allow the city administrator or whoever the person in this position would designate. So in the past, we've had to wait for Washington County to either defer that or basically make a statement that what their action is on it. This brings the power back to the city to make that decision. And this also updates that the violation is not a simple misdemeanor, but rather a municipal infraction, which there's more of that in our code, which establishes municipal infractions can be, I believe, escalated in different, I guess, applied in different ways. So they have an escalation that is appropriate with the action, I believe, on that. Other than that, those would be the updates there. So changing some language, and then changing responsibility from sheriff to city administrator.
Looks good.
So. We're looking for if there's someone who wants to make a motion.
So this would just be a single action, just a 3 reading process.
This would, all of these could be three, could be done in one, they could be done in three. If you're, as Tom, I think your point earlier was approve the first reading tonight. Next meeting, you could do a second reading. And then if there's no attest to that, I guess no contest, we can waive that third reading and approve. So.
But in a sense, all ordinance rework or change would require 3 readings, but you have.
Unless waived, yes, unless, yeah. Yep. Yep.
I'd like to make a motion to approve all of them as written.
No, not for ordinances.
Each one individually.
Yeah, we do need to go through them.
Well, this one.
I promise next one's really short.
Second.
Yeah. Okay.
So like we finish it, right?
Yeah. This ends.
So, yes.
Yep.
Any discussion.
I would like a motion, like to, make a motion to waive the second and third readings. So,
Discussion on that.
It's fine. That's
So, it's got Mills, Sexton.
okay. So this chapter 55 as amended, once recorded, it'll be now that we've waived the second and third readings and it's been adopted, it would be effective. So published, recorded there. Let's see. Chapter 112, this would be repealing. I mentioned this in my Friday report, I think last week, the week before. But we have a cable TV franchise would have been a company that was previously acquired by Mediacom, and this has been something that has not been enforced or collected upon. And since this past 1997, there's some back and forth from some old letters from a former mayor and Mediacom about enforcement of this. And I guess in short, it's something we haven't collected on in some time. And our city attorney had some questions on us actually being able to didn't think it was realistic based off of how Iowa law specifies for cable video franchises that we'd be able to collect on previous revenues. However, these I guess franchise fees are typically passed on to residents anyways, so we would be effectively increasing resident bills for this franchise. So as of now, this franchise doesn't have a function. It's something that we could revisit and readopt in the future if needed, as I guess a revenue source. But seeing now that we don't use it, I think it's okay if we get rid of it. But so an ordinance repealing chapter 112 cable television franchise in the Code of Ordinances of the City of Riverside, Iowa. The purpose of this ordinance is to align the city's cable television ordinance with state law regarding certificates of franchise authority, and recognizing the fact that since the passage of state certificates of franchise authority in 2007, there remains little to no impetus for cable television providers to obtain a local franchise. Chapter 112 is repealed in its entirety. All ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with the provisions of this ordinance are hereby repealed. Any section, provision, or part of this ordinance shall be adjudged invalid, unconstitutional. Such adjudication shall not affect the validity of this ordinance as a whole, or any section, provision, or part thereof not adjudged invalid or unconstitutional. This ordinance shall be effective after its passage and publication as required by law.
I'll make a motion to in chapter 112. Cable video franchise.
The motion would be to approve.
It's entirely.
Okay. So is the motion to approve the first reading, or
The motion would be to.
that's needed to be?
Sorry.
Nope, you're good.
So.
Hey, a lot of things.
Motion to As or when
You You want to waive? Okay.
Session.
Published. Next, last one, chapter 162 would be an amendment to weeds, vines, and brush. This is an existing ordinance. The changes, we'll just read the purpose. The purpose of this ordinance is to update the city's process for addressing weed, vine, brush, and grass control within the city of Riverside, Iowa, and to ensure the process is efficient as possible within the bounds of Iowa law. Chapter 162 is repealed and replaced and entirely as followed. This one, so we're replacing it with a new ordinance. So I'll be quick and reading this. Chemical control, the application of herbicide weed killer is strict accordance with the directions on the product and regulations code of Iowa, the Iowa Administrative Code as amended. Developed area, an area except for one designated as the agricultural district under one of the city's zoning districts upon which there exists one or more houses, businesses, or industrial plants. Hazard, any weed grasses or other herbaceous vegetation that interferes with any sidewalk or the traveled portion of any roadway, alley, or with visibility at any intersection, or traffic control light or site, or constitutes a reasonable health, safety, or fire hazard, or otherwise endangers life or property. Parking the property between the property owner's lot on a property line and the curb or the traveled portion of the public street with a center line of the public right of way, depending on the absence of a curb or traveled portion. Property owner, contract purchaser, if there's one of record, otherwise the record holder of the legal title. Urban street, the area from curb to curb or the absence of curbing, the traveled portion of the street or the public highway, street, road, lane, alley, or similar public way within the jurisdiction of the city, which is generally used for vehicular traffic. Weeds, any plant growing uncultivated or out of context with the surrounding plant life. When such plant has a seed head formed or forming and with a height of 8 inches or more, except as otherwise provided in this chapter. Weeds as used in this chapter also include noxious weeds as defined by the Code of Iowa or the Iowa Administrative Code as amended. Weed official, the city administrator or their designee hereby given the authority to enforce the provisions of this chapter. Annual notice, the weed official or their designee shall give notice by publication prior to the 15th of April in a daily newspaper of general circulation of the city, not prop. Actually, that's one thing I see. We don't have a daily newspaper. So I think this needs to be updated to being like the publication of record. But notifying property owners of their occupants in possession of controlled lands, including railroad lands within the city of Riverside, Iowa, of their duty to maintain all weeds, vines, bushes, non-purposeful planted trees less than 3 inches in diameter, and noxious weeds or other growths as required under this chapter. The notice will further state that the city will cut or destroy such weeds, vines, bushes, or non-purposely planted trees less than 3 inches in diameter, and noxious weeds as defined by the state code or other growths, and bill or assess the cost thereof to the property owner or occupant in possession or control of lands, including railroad lands within the city of Riverside, Iowa. That cost will be assessed against the property in accordance with this chapter. Once annual notice is published, the city may, but is not required to provide additional notice to the property owner or occupant in possession or control of any land in the form of a door hanger or letter sent via regular mail, notifying the person of violations of this chapter. If the city elects to provide additional written notice, said notice shall include the following: the property owner or occupant in possession of controlled land in violation of the city's weed control ordinance, that the property owner or occupant in possession of control of the land is ordered to cut weeds within 3 days of the letter. That the property owner or occupant in possession or control land does not cut the weeds, that the city or its authorized agent will cut the weeds and assess the cost of the cutting, including a reasonable administrative fee against the owner or occupant in possession of the control of the land. That the property owner or occupant in possession of or control of land will be given an opportunity to pay the assessment, but if it's not paid, will be assessed against the property for collection in time, same manner of property tax. That no further notice shall be given prior to removing of weeds during the current calendar year. If the property owner or occupant in possession or control of the land may request a hearing before the Riverside City Council or its designated representative within 4 days of their seat of notice. Maintenance of parking private property. All property owners shall maintain the property and the abutting parking according to the following standards in developed areas and other areas which lie within 100 feet of the developed area or urban street, except for those otherwise hereinafter regulated. Old vines, bushes, non-purposely planted trees less than 3 inches in diameter, and noxious weeds as defined by the state code, chapter 317, or other code shall be cut or destroyed by the property owners or occupants in possession of control of lands, including railroad lands within the city of Riverside, Iowa, to a height comparable to lower than the ground cover in the surrounding area, or when such growth exceeds 8 inches in height. All weeds, vine, brush, bushes, non-purposely planted trees less than 3 inches in diameter, noxious weed growths or other growth which occur within the public right of way or an urban street, including drainage ditch located therein, shall be cut or destroyed by the property owners or occupants in possession or control of the abutting lands to a height comparable to lower than the ground cover in the surrounding area of which growth exceeds 8 inches in height. In all other areas of the city, all weeds, vines, bushes less than 3 inches in diameter and noxious weeds, other growth shall be cut or destroyed when such growth is 18 inches in height. For now, I will just refer to this as weeds and or vegetation, just for this. I will just refer to that as vegetation. In these events, such vegetation cannot be destroyed by the usual ordinary methods because of the terrain or rough surface of the property, and the weed official may direct the grading or otherwise leveling of said property, such that a proper destruction of said vegetation can be accomplished. These costs to grade or otherwise level said property will be billed or assessed as provided in this chapter. In the event the city destroys such vegetation, any loss or damage to crops growing on the property or other damage you cause to the property shall be borne by the owners or occupants of said property and not by the city of Riverside or its employees or agents. These requirements, as outlined above for the maintenance, parking, and private property, are in effect no later than May 1st of each year and thereafter through and including October 31st of each year. The property owner shall keep the abutting parking in repair, free of holes, excavations, protrusions, and other obstacles which would cause injury to the public. The weed official determines that a clear and compelling emergency exists. The weed official may cause the necessary maintenance required under this chapter be done immediately without prior notification. Without prior notification, that needs to be missing of the property owner. The cost for the maintenance of the emergency may be assessed and provided with this code. Failure to comply. In the event any property owner or occupant in possession of the control of lands, including railroad lands, fails to cut or destroys vegetation, the weed official shall destroy such vegetation, including method including chemical control. It may be necessary to make such destruction. Costs upon completion of the weed abatement, the weed official or designated person shall certify the contracted costs, expenses provided by law, plus applicable administrative fees set by the city council to cover the costs for inspection, notice preparation, mailing, tracking, billing, and other required services to execute the abatement thereof. Property owner and occupant in possession or controlled lands, including railroad lands within the city of Riverside. On invoices not paid within 30 days, there will be an additional fee for assessment against the property. Exemptions. The following are exempt from the requirements of section 162.3. Vegetable or other flower gardens purposely planted so long as they are maintained so as to not create a nuisance. Permitted pollinator gardens subject to the following: built and planted pursuant to a free natural planting area permitted issued by the city clerk's office or designee, the application for which shall include. So this would be native plantings that would need to be permitted by the city. So you can't just because it's established here, you can't just plant it anywhere, but it has to be permitted. Includes allegedly hand-drawn or computer-generated site plans showing the proposed planting plan, a maintenance plan outlining how the natural area will be managed to ensure the area will not become a nuisance. Maintenance plan must include intended action to be taken to prevent invasive species, either through lawful chemical application, weeding, or general weeding, and fall mowing. Natural plantings area signage with the permit number must be prominently displayed adjacent to the pollinator garden. All applicants, including circumstances where rental property or being sold on contract, shall sign written verification the applicant understands all code requirements. The applicant agrees to abide by all code requirements. Written verification must be signed by the property owner. Pollinator gardens must use plants native to Iowa or to the Midwest and be recommended by Iowa Department of Natural Resources, such as, and there's a list of instances such as, it's not limited, so not going to go through all those. Planting any portion of the pollinator garden in the parking area is prohibited, so right away. Location requirements, 5-foot buffer strips between property lines, 5-foot buffer strip from the right of way, 2-foot buffer strip from the public sidewalk, 3-foot buffer strip from a fire hydrant, 3-foot buffer strip from a transformer, 3-foot buffer strip from a gas riser. Plantings over 3 foot in height are not permitted. A 10-inch height must be maintained for the 2 feet adjacent to the buffer strip along the right of way and public sidewalk. Planting shall not encroach across property lines into public sidewalks or public streets or alleyways. Appropriate pollinator gardens will reseed themselves from year to year. It is expected that pollinator gardens will require 2 or more years to establish. However, if pollinator garden is found to be out of compliance, i.e. noxious weeds, improper maintenance, overgrown across property lines, etc., more than 3 times, the natural planting area permit shall be revoked and the pollinator garden shall be removed within 30 days thereafter. Municipal infraction. In addition to the cost of section 16205, nothing in this chapter shall prohibit the city from pursuing a municipal infraction against the property owner or occupant in possession or control of lands for a violation of this chapter. All ordinances or parts of ordinance in conflict with provisions of this ordinance are hereby repealed. If any section, provision, or part of this ordinance shall be adjudged invalid or unconstitutional, such adjudication shall not affect the validity of this ordinance as a whole or any section, provision, part thereof not adjudged invalid or unconstitutional. This ordinance shall be effected after its passage and publication as required by law. Fiend. No, I'm ready to go for another one if you got one. What's that?
I like the fall.
I will say that we've had, in my 2 years here, I've had, probably, 5 to 8 different residents reach out about pollinator gardens, and, as of now, they would be out of compliance, and frankly, we have people in town who do have these. I think it's been an area that it's something I think is friendly to our environment of our community and gives property owners the freedom to, I think, exercise how they want to do their property, but we are also providing standards for how it has to be, so it's not a nuisance. Especially the pieces of the setbacks around sidewalks, streets, property lines. And it also needs to be permitted, so there is a say in it from the city. And so I think that is something that produces a good for our community while also simultaneously establishing standards for something we don't currently have in this meeting a resident request. So yes.
Okay.
Do a yep. Someone's gonna have to read next time though. Maybe I'll do a recording. Okay. For content. Okay.
No, I don't recall in pollinator gardens, but they need to be out of the right of way in the front of the house, I believe. And you just can't fill your garden with that type of garden and just expect the weeds are acceptable to it. It has to be cleanly and maintained. Periodically.
Is everyone okay with the buffer strip requirements? And then also around sidewalks, they do need to be shorter. So this, we did here being my speed reading there, I think it was 10 inches or something like that next to sidewalks. And it has to be, that doesn't also include the buffer. So it's, we're making sure that it's not overly tall. So is this approving first reading and then also making those edits? And we
all for first reading. So that you- or-
We'll have it, but
Discussion. To,
um, next, have a resolution, to approve the hire of a part-time custodian here, and, I do have, applicant, that, for $15 an hour plus IPERS, that was Jesse Cole, resident here in Riverside. Met with her and I've walked through what the, process would be, and I feel comfortable and confident in her ability to be able to fulfill the job. So
The 16. I'll make a motion to approve 2025 that's 61. Resolution to hire a part- so
discussion. Did we get more than an hour than we expected?
2 to 3 hours per week max. So it would just be the vacuuming, changing out trash around here, wiping things down. So it wouldn't be, I said, more than 2 to 3 hours a week. So
For the questions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
oh, we have roll call. Sorry.
That's fine.
All right. Couple. I do have a proposal on here from Civic Plus about an agenda management software. At this point, I'm gonna leave it for you guys to look over on your own time. We can come back to it and talk about it later, just for the sense of time tonight. I will say, I think it does show some potential for improving our workflow, the time it takes to produce the packets, and would be it's a time saving and quite a bit of stress saving. And then also, um, let's see. There are, so if you go on the website, there are, I can see if I can find a video when I get back. I'll send you guys about kind of how the council board portal, I guess, would work. So you would see kind of the functionality of that, but it's essentially, it's a platform that would you would log into. There'd be, so you give us like a closed session, there's confidential documents you could access through it. You see it through a let's see, you can look at it through a packet view, or you can look at it like section by section. It has built-in approvals, so like the agenda is something that I can build out in items, and then when those things are on there, they'll be sent to Alan automatically for approval. We can go through, and then those items, we attach items, I guess documents directly to it. So it basically cut down steps out of our current packet creation process. Yeah, I'll send you information, the functionality, so you guys can look at that. The important question here for you guys probably is, what's it going to cost? And the build out for the first, so that's first year, which includes the first year software, plus the time to build out all of the forms, which includes our minutes, our agenda and minute templates, with also like sections for I guess the sections of our minutes. I don't know how to, sorry, my brain's a little slow at this point, but so building out all those custom forms plus the first year service is $7,200, and then each year after that would be $3,300, plus the second year is a 5% increase. So ends up, what, 30, no, off the top of my head, $3,400, for the second year. I think this is one of those areas where, the potential for time savings, although we would be taking on a new cost for some of this would allow us to hopefully spend less time on the packets and, allow us to focus on other priorities. And, I think by improving our processes, that's gonna be a big benefit to us. I think we could, feasibly hire and bring on more, I guess, labor to do very manual processes, but is that the best interest of our time? But anyways, this is just for informational purposes tonight. I'll send out more information on what it looked like functionality wise, and we can talk more about that. But anyways,
Well, if you guys, if Alan's had a chance to look into this at all, I'm just kind of like to hear what you think. For the preliminary of it.
Yeah. Detail is same. It's just.
Yeah. There are some video, there's like a video demos that I can send out as like an informational item. I think there's like 6 or 7 videos and all of them are like a minute or so. That I think would be good to kind of get a feel for how it would function. But I can send that out as kind of an informational item and we can talk about it. Yeah. I can give a couple other updates. I've requested available dates from LRS for fall cleanup, and pricing for both a manned and unmanned cleanup. I have not got a response back, yet. That was end of, I think, Wednesday, I requested information on that, but, I should have more of an update next council meeting so we can get that scheduled and let people know when that will be. I've also started to look at, leaf pickup, and getting quotes on that for this year. So we'll have information on that here in the next month or so. Get those booked. See, deputy clerk hiring, applications are due, August 30th, end of day. I've received one so far. So, if you guys do know of anyone who would have skill sets that would work well here in City Hall and, help us, keep cleaning up processes and, that would be awesome. So looking for someone to text. It's in the paper, the website, on Facebook. It's on the Washington, like City of Washington. There, let's see, it is physically posted as well. I didn't put it on Indeed this time. But do you have if you have any suggestions on other places to post, be happy to do that. Or if you have any candidates you think has the skills to be successful in this, we would love to have them apply. So, other things, updating just kind of the September City Council meeting schedule. Looked at us moving the meeting that would have been on the 2nd because of Labor Day on the 1st, actually moving that to the 8th. So then we'd have a meeting on the 8th and the 15th. The focus of the meeting on the 8th would be to review the Riverside Foundation grant, the fire engine proposals, and we could do ordinances, but I think we could keep that meeting pretty lean, especially considering that I will be out until I'll be back on the 28th. And that would give us kind of that next week to, I'll be working pretty heavily on the Riverside Foundation grant that week. So I can't guarantee you how in depth of other stuff we're gonna have on that, because that's kind of the core priority. But then the meeting on the 15th, we back to our just a normal meeting, and then October, it looks like we're gonna be back on a normal meeting schedule. So I know we've had a kind of odd couple months here, but appreciate you being flexible and working with us on it. But and then my last thing here, update on the nuisance work session. I've reached out to Terry and Dan. We've talked about kind of the concept of a bus tour and going around to a handful of different properties around town. Terry gave me his availability. Dan replied with his, I think either Friday or today. I haven't gotten back to him on that yet. I think looking at sometime in late September would be likely for that. I think it's going to be dependent on our ability to get a bus and driver and coordinate schedules, but that's something I'll work more on when I get back and get that scheduled. But I think it's a good interactive type of approach to it. Hopefully with especially these new ordinances, that'll be something for us to talk about since it's going to be new for all of us. All kind of get on the same page and talk about what our specific roles are in each part of it, even if it's city council's role as the appeals board. Like if that's part of it, it'd be good for us all to know where we stand on it and what the steps are to address different, I'll call archetype of nuisances, and what those steps would be, just so we can set realistic expectations of what progress is going to look like. And yeah.
I kind of drive around a little too after the mission brought this back up. Self-starting, and hopefully everyone else can kind of make something up and get it to City Hall. Do the tablet kind of thing.
To that point, Tom, would it be feasible for everyone to, if you have a list of, to have it at our September 8th meeting? So that would give me time to combine all of those, and then we can kind of sort and look at, as I mentioned, kind of the archetypes or our most serious nuisances and prioritize like where we should be spending our time at these properties.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. We had a date that everything pulls together and, I'm sure there's gonna be multiple residents,
Yep.
If all five would say one property needs attention, that you get to talk about
Yep.
this. And if one person just has one, I think that's pretty low, but it'd be consideration for all of this house. So yes,
Is September 8th, is that a realistic deadline for everyone to be able
I
to?
think that's
Yeah.
funny.
Okay. I will make note of that to keep in my newsletter. Let's do by city council. September.
Sure, or they answer for whatever that's in the pictures.
Say that one time.
So it's before the bus or van trip, let's include pictures.
Yep.
So we don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't really know what happens in Riverside.
That's fair. Any other comments on that before I turn it over to Stephanie for financials? All right.
Nothing really groundbreaking here. Our aging report is looking really good. We are only $99.68 in arrears. And we're $1,407 paid in advance on the water billing. So all of the billings are looking really good. Do you guys have any specific questions about anything to answer for you?
All right. I think we got a lot done tonight, so I'll turn it back over to you guys.
Oh, go ahead. Ben.
I was just gonna say on the bridges.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Did you?
Yep.
Yeah. Did you like something tall? What's up with that?
I don't know if I'll be able to, Tom.
Are we just gonna? Or do we have to just continue to look at it if somebody does something, or are there any avenues that come down to say it's cleaned up? I mean, it just continues to grow and fill in and getting worse, and the one, or Carolyn is smoking in front because she gets sick of looking at the way it is. You know, having upon herself, but I'm just curious, are there any avenues that we're gonna look at going down and get that property cleaned up, or it's just Hills Bank does somewhere?
I would send that to Lynch Dallas for them to send a new notice to. I, at this point, when it's in foreclosure, I'm not sure if who's legal, who the legal party is. I think it would be something they would just send notice to both parties and you'd hit both, and then whoever is responsible, that they'll let that find out, but that's something to have sent over. That's,
Yeah.
I can let Terry know, to stop, document that and take care of that while I'm out, so.
Yeah, let's, reach out to those.
So. I didn't read it. Look, yeah. The back of the foundation, you know, back of the pitch.
What, where is this property at?
East there, it's just east of the ball. Then the road there, basement, south of that one. I'm sure they have. If we get the rain, that's what matters. That's a situation like that for fencing off the property when you got a bull like that sitting that long, or. I mean, the worst part of it is it's right across from the playground, and I wouldn't foresee anything happening, but unfortunately, construction like that, it usually moves along very quick, so let's stay open very long.
We're talking about the is this the property? Oh,
Yeah.
Courtney and Tyler Gates property, okay.
Yeah.
Talked about that, yeah.
We'll take a motion to adjourn. Okay. We're done with that.
Second.
Who got that?
Favor say aye.
Good work.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Ryan.